Hello there everyone, today I'm going to read a little Twilight fic called Worship of a Princess. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. Princess. Rainbow Dash entered the library, kicking the door closed as she looked around the main room. Walking over to the kitchen door, she peeked inside. Twilight, her wings ruffled as a pop sounded behind her, then a gentle rush of air flowed over one of her flanks. Oh, there you are. Rainbow turned her head, looking straight into the purple eyes of the mare she'd been looking for. Twilight stopped her speech with a gentle nuzzle, touching their noses together and rubbing Rainbow's snout with a smile. I've been waiting for you, Dashy, she murmured under her breath, gazing into Rainbow's eyes without blinking. Twilight, Rainbow asked, nuzzling her friend back. Twilight hummed, angling her head so their lips brushed past each other. Yes, Dash? Rainbow started to ask what was going on, but when she parted her lips, Twilight took the chance and gently folded her lips around Rainbow's bottom one, pulling at it gently. Rainbow's mind fuzzed over and she started to stutter at a question as her mind failed to catch up. Giving up on thought, she shrugged and instead leaned into Twilight's muzzle, pressing her own lips firmly against the princess's. Twilight pressed forward, tilting her head so that she was over Rainbow, pushing softly down on the mirror as they both backed away from the doorway and into the kitchen proper. Twilight's tongue flicked Rainbow's upper lip and Dash followed the silent command, opening her lips further for the sugary tongue that entwined her own, spreading over the top before circling again. Her tail flicking, Rainbow discovered she had less room than she thought she had, backing immediately into the kitchen's wall. Twilight still pressed forward, forcing Rainbow to first sit, then press herself flat against the wall. Only after she spread her wings to push away from the wall did Twilight stop. Pressing a hoof to Rainbow's chest, Twilight held her there as she looked over the panting mare, back to the wall and wings spread to either side. Moving her hoofs, Twilight softly pushed against Rainbow's sensitive wings, holding Dash to the wall as Twilight nipped at her ears. You're so bucking cute, Twilight whispered into her ear, Dash moaning at both the words and the cessation of the warm air. Twi, please, Dash pleaded, voice scratchier than normal. You know what that does to my wings. With a chuckle, Twilight nodded into Rainbow's necks, before biting gently on the tip of her ear and pulling as she pressed on the base of Rainbow's wings, rubbing circles there. Rainbow moaned, her legs twitching and nearly falling out from under her as she slowly spread her thighs. Twi took advantage, sliding her back legs between Dash's and propping her up in Twilight's lap. Oh, Dashy, Twilight purred into Rainbow's ear. You're getting my tummy all. She paused to nibble on Dash's ear again, treading light bites from the tip to the base. Wet, 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 she breathed, pushing her stomach right into Dash's hips, making the mare moan and wrap her legs together around Twilight. Should we be doing this in the kitchen? She asked the princess, giggling at the almost ticklish bites trailing down the side of her neck. Where's Spike? Oh, I said I have to go get some out of Rarity, Twilight giggled, biting again on the side of Rainbow's neck. He'll be gone for a while, and the door's locked anyway. Rainbow sighed as Twilight worked her way down the mare's neck to her chest, planting several sweet but non-erotic kisses on the muscles there. Looking down, Rainbow was seized by temptation and slowly stuck her tongue out, grabbing the back of her neck to make sure Twilight couldn't jerk too much. Rainbow slowly ran a tongue over the horn that had been bobbing in front of her nose. Twilight twitched, moaning as her wings snapped out, a little larger than Rainbow's now. Wrapping her forelegs around the blue mare, Twilight ground her belly into Rainbow's hips, pushing her flesh against the hot sex of the dripping Pegasus. Rainbow moaned, wrapping her tongue around the horn and pulling her head up, running the wet muscle over the spiraling magic organ. Sparks started running along the length of the horn, seemingly popping from the spiral itself. To Rainbow's delight, the spikes not only had a flavor, they tasted of sweet raspberries. Running the middle of her tongue over the whole of the horn, she enveloped the tips with her lips and ran her mouth down to Twilight's forehead, gulping a bit as the tip of the horn poked the back of her throat, running her tongue back and forth over the horn. She bobbed gently on the length of it. Twilight shivered, trying to hold back a moan, pushing on Rainbow's chest. She wriggled a hoof between them, pushing it between her chest and Rainbow's belly. Pulling her hips away, Twilight giggled at Rainbow's needy groan. Ah. She pressed her hoof against Rainbow's sex, grinding against her winking slit. About halfway up Twilight's horn, Rainbow froze, screaming against her closed lips as she came, bucking her hips into Twilight's warm hoof. With Rainbow's orgasmic moans vibrating her horn, Twilight shoved her muzzle against Rainbow's chest as she had her own mini orgasm, her legs tensing and pushing both of them up the wall. Breathing heavily, Twilight leaned against Dash as they both recovered, pinning the Pegasus to the wall and panting almost directly into her ear. With a gentle suck, Rainbow pulled herself off of Twilight's horn, giving it a gentle lick to the tip as she pulled back. Thanks, Twi, she muttered, almost sleepily. That was Really nice. Twilight giggled, stretching her neck before kissing Rainbow again, wrapping her forelegs around Dash's back hocks and pulling her up a bit. You're talking like we're done here, Dashy, Twilight murmured, pushing her lips forward and grinding against Dash's wet slit again. With a moan, Rainbow smiled down and leaned forward to kiss Twilight again. Well, I'm up for another round. Which game this time? She asked, giving a crooked grin. Leaning back, Twilight's horn lit up, removing the copious amounts of spit and levitating it somewhere underneath the mares. Twilight moved her hips slightly, and Rainbow's eyes widened as something poked between her folds. My game, Twilight breathed, moaning in tandem with Dash as she let the Pegasus slide down the wall, Rainbow almost screaming as she felt something penetrate her slowly, spreading her to the world as Twilight pulled her legs further apart. Twilight, Dash asked, shivering and wriggling her hips, arching her back. Ooh, Buck, what's in me, Twi? Me, Twi said with a cocky grin, pulling her hips back and sliding out of Rainbow. I've got a spell that, she thrust back in, moaning slowly, lets me have a certain advantage, shall we say? Moaning, Rainbow leaned forward, hugging Twi's muzzle into her neck and her hips bucked. You're bucking me with a magic strap on? She asked, almost giggling. Geez, Egghead, be more of a... Twilight had pulled back her hips, and as Rainbow had started teasing her, had set up a pumping rhythm, bouncing Rainbow on the thickening cock. Sorry, Rainbow, I think I interrupted you, Twilight teased, panting and grinning happily. What were you saying? What me, nerd? She breathed, grabbing Twilight's neck and pushing against the wall with her wings, toppling the both of them onto the floor. With all four of her legs around Twilight, Rainbow took the brunt of most of the fall, and was giggling at the way Twilight had grabbed onto her as they fell. Rainbow, Twilight scolded, using a wing to whack the back of the Pegasus' head. You could have, she cut off, moans taking over her throat as Rainbow started bouncing her hips against Twilight's. Rainbow tried to force out a taunt of her own, but her own lungs were too busy sucking in air to make any sound beyond almost ear-splitting moans. Rainbow, you're going too fast. I'm gonna, Twilight tried to say, grabbing the Pegasus' hips, but doing nothing beyond that. What, Twilight? Rainbow asked, picking the pace up a step and biting her lip. Are you going to come for me? Come in me with your magic cock, Twilight. Rainbow, Twilight murmured, barely audible, before she arched hard enough to hoist Rainbow into the air. They both moaned as the magic phallus pulsed. Rainbow had time to count 3 throbs before it let something loose in her, filling her with a hot liquid that glowed through her stomach and moved with its own life before abruptly disappearing. Twilight collapsed, both of them panting, Rainbow giggling at the rush that seemed to be getting even stronger. You made my womb light up, Sparkle, she laughed, rubbing absently over the spot. What the buck was that? Magic overflow? Twilight panted, smiling and letting go of the spell, dismissing the magic at her own groin. Rainbow sighed as the thing filling her disappeared, a small trickle of some iridescent fluid trickling out of her and onto Twilight's pussy, making the other mare moan and squirm. You came in me, Twi, Rainbow said seriously, her glowing face belaying her tone. I think it's only fair to return the favor. You can cast that magic cock on me, right? With a strangled moan and a lopsided smile, Twilight's horn lit up again, and Rainbow felt something heavy insert itself into her, attaching almost straight onto her G-spot. She moaned and tensed, feeling a white bob on her lips. Holy apples, Twi! How do you stand this so long? Rainbow muttered, reaching out and stroking the invisible cock balanced between them. Turning over, Twilight got her legs beneath her and pushed, sending her flanks into the air and looking over her shoulder. Well, I had you to impress, didn't I? She flicked her tail to the side, showing off her dripping, winking slit. Now, why don't you come over here and impress your princess? Standing on shaking legs, Rainbow moved over to Twilight, treading kisses from her thighs up to her dock, before plunging her tongue between Twilight's plump lips, staring her tongue around and over Twilight's walls, making the mare gasp and lean back into Rainbow's muzzle. Rainbow, Twilight gasped, as much as I love your tongue, you've got 3 seconds to put your bucking cock in me, or I swear. Licking a straight line from the bottom of her slit to her dock, Rainbow gently bit the fleshy part of Twilight's tail before she mounted, jumping and pulling Twilight's ass closer to her dick. Pushing the flat head against Twilight's sex, Rainbow leaned over and nuzzled the spot between her wings, nuzzling and licking as Twilight moaned and extended the limbs as far as they could go. Waiting until they were fully outstretched, Rainbow finally pressed her flare against the other mare's wet pussy, slipping up and down for a moment before penetrating. With a grunge, Twilight shifted opening her back legs further to accommodate the member inside of her. "Dear Luna, was I this big?" she muttered, making Dash giggle as she wriggled side to side. When she finished adjusting her legs, she leaned back, pulling more of Dash in and sighing. Figuring that was her hint, Dash pulled back an inch before sliding forwards, testing her lubrication and finding it adequate. "Ready, Egghead?" she asked before sliding out and bucking forward, holding herself to Twilight's tail and mushing into her plot. Neither of them expecting the sensation, they both moaned, Rainbow arching forward as Twilight arched back. Seeing her earlier conquest back for more, Rainbow flicked her tongue out to lap at Twilight's horn as she humped into Twilight's pussy, the princess's tongue hanging over her jaw as she moaned into the air. Using her forehooves, Rainbow stroked Twilight's wings, keeping tempo with the stroking of her own dick into the princess, keeping the same tempo with her tongue along her horn. Panting, Twilight did the only reasonable thing to do at this point, feeling something only 3 other beings currently in existence were even capable of feeling. She came, ripping Rainbow's magic dick and milking it with every muscle between her back hooves and her wings. Gasping, Rainbow screamed around Twilight's horn as she filled the princess with the same glowing seed that had been shot into her womb, both of them panting words of love. I love you so much, Rainbow," Twilight panted over her shoulder. And she was smiling up at Rainbow, and she was so beautiful that Rainbow couldn't help but. Rainbow curled into a ball, shoving the vibrating cock deep into her pussy, her fetlock grinding into her winking clit, her rear hooves behind her head and shaking. Tensing, her back snapped into an arch, her entire body lifting from her bed. Her intense orgasm squeezing against the large cock now held in place by 2 hooves as Rainbow screamed her release towards her headboard, releasing all tension at the same time. Rainbow sat and laughed weakly, looking up at the ceiling and smiling. The dildo slid out by itself as she let go of it, and she tossed it towards the bathroom to be cleaned later. Her hooves were a simpler matter, and she licked all of her cum off them, grinning at the familiar taste. "That was a good one, Luna," she murmured out loud, invoking the goddess of dreams. Slowly she wiped a tear away from her eyes and sniffed. "I hope someday I can have her for real," she said, rolling over as she ignored the pain in her chest, wishing it away as sleep overcame her. The end. Okay, so it was a Twilight dream, and come on, Twi. Didn't I expect? I was hoping this was like a real thing, but it's just Twilight dreaming and imagining having her. Now I just feel sad. Alright, guys, hopefully you all have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Like, share, and all that mumbo jumbo that I never say because I don't really care. Your choice. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great night.
100,000 stories have filled my head as I look for the answers in what